Yeah, I'm Mark Williams. I work for Rowan Glen, who happen to sponsor the mountain rescue team in Galloway, hence the jacket. But I've also always had a keen interest in wild mushrooms. So I volunteered as part of Savour the Flavours to take a load of people out on a forage to see what we could find that's good to eat. We've been in Carrochtery and we've been looking around Carrochtery Woods, around the visitor centre, keeping off the cyclepaths, and yeah, probably a 3 or 4 mile walk, something like that. There's been a really big upsurge in wild mushrooms or hunting wild foods in general since probably, well, it started in the 70s. A fellow called Richard Mabey wrote a book called Food for Free, and this kind of reignited an interest that had sort of died out in Britain in picking wild foods. You can imagine 100, 200 years ago, a lot of people lived off the land, and they would have naturally known these things growing up and grown to know which were the edible mushrooms and which weren't. As time went by, you know, the kind of boom in convenience foods and things like that, these things just went out of fashion. But if you go over to the continent, it's very much part of the heritage over there, and everybody grows up still, and always has, knowing which are the edible mushrooms and which ones aren't. I think if you're picking wild mushrooms, you really need to look for a good mixture of woodland. Beech trees are very good, some birch trees, but even plantation forestry can yield quite a lot of good mushrooms. So if I was starting out in mushroom picking, I would go for a big variety of habitats, which is exactly what we've got at Carrochtery. And Galloway as a whole has all sorts of great habitats for all sorts of wild foods and mushrooms in particular, because it's one huge forest park. If you want to get into wild mushrooms and you're just starting off, don't be too ambitious. Start with maybe even just 3 species that you're looking for. Chanterelles, hedgehog mushrooms, and orange birch bolete. I say them because they're common, they're hard to mistake, not impossible, but hard to mistake for anything that might do you any harm, and they're all delicious. So that's a good way to start. Also, learn the 5 deadly ones. So you probably should always know more deadly ones than you do delicious ones. That's a good rule of thumb. I do always say that all mushrooms are edible, it's just some you can only eat once. Really deadly species I don't find a great deal of in Galloway, but there are some that we found today growing right alongside delicious species that would cause you harm if you ate them. There's probably only 5 that you're likely to ever find in this area that are actually deadly. And what you have to do is know them really well, know them better than the edible ones. But really, so long as you actually positively identify the thing that you find with a book, and if you've got any doubt at all, check it with somebody who really knows what they're talking about, or just don't eat it. That's my advice. In Eastern Europe, hunting for wild mushrooms is known as a silent hunt. It's also been called vegetarian stalking. So if you're, I'm quite happily going bag any kind of food. I like a bit of fish and meat like anybody else. But there's something really lovely about just wandering around a woodland. You're not really harming anything, and you're just finding your own produce for yourself. Dumfries and Galloway has got loads going for it in terms of wild food you can pick for yourself, but also lots of people making really good fresh food, artisan food. And I would say to anybody, come down and try out a few restaurants, pick some of your own food, cook a bit of your own, buy some of the local cheeses, and get stuck into Galloway, because it's gourmet Galloway.